guys, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel. So today I have my September wrap up. September was a pretty good month for me, but I did read primarily library books, which is not helping the amount of books that I have on my physical TBR right now. But since it sort of is annoying that I don't like hold anything up for those, or at least it's kind of annoying to me to see me just talking, I did get the pictures of the covers onto my iPad today, so I hope that that will be a little more interesting to you guys if you can see the cover in some sort of way. So let's just hop into this. Okay, so the first book that I read in September, I actually read the majority of it in August, but I just finished it up in September, and that is Rage by Cora Carmick. Now this was just released in August, but this is an arc. I just didn't get to it before it was released because I read the first book, Roar, in August and then moved on to Rage. But yes, so this story is following our main character, Aurora, who is this princess who doesn't have the magic of her world. So the first book is basically about her trying to come to terms with not having magic, and she's sort of not forced, but she's put into like a sort of political marriage to sort of help with that fact. But then she meets this person who shows her that she may have another way out. So yeah, so the story continues into here. I did annotate Roar, but I did not enjoy it as much. I gave it a solid like 3.5 stars. But with Rage, I decided just to not annotate it, and I actually started just annotating like the parts or quotes I liked, and I found that that worked much better, and I ended up really liking the story. So this book I gave a 4-star, and I think it's a pretty good fantasy. I was really happy that it didn't suffer from, you know, middle book syndrome, and there was a lot of action in this. Like, when we got to the middle, I was like confused because it seemed like we were like towards the end of a story when we weren't. So yeah, I'm very excited to see what the next book holds. So the next book that I read in September was Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is a sci-fi novel following two recently broken up teams after their planet or their colonization is attacked and they're forced to flee, and it's just sort of about them trying to survive in this crazy world and with all of the crazy circumstances happening. So yeah, this I'm sure as you guys know is written in like mixed media format, which made it super cool to read because I've never read anything that was fully mixed media. I've read books that are partially mixed media, but this is like fully mixed media, and I really enjoyed it. It was also a super quick read. I think I read it in like 2 days, and it was really like immersive and drew me in, and I ended up giving this 5 stars. I loved it so much. I definitely connected with these characters and was able to like I said, get pulled into the story and like really care about what was happening. So this is definitely maybe one of my favorite books of all time now. I really enjoyed it. And moving on to the next book was Reign of the Fallen by Sarah Glenn Marsh. This is a book about necromancers, and our main character is actually bisexual, which is really, or bi or pan, I'm not gonna assume, but she likes boys and girls. I'm just gonna say that. The beginning, we're following two necromancers who work in like a partnership, but they're also like together. But one day, their one of their mentors is found dead, and it sort of brings on a chain of events of like trying to find out what's happening. And in this world, there are people who are like undead. You know, they've been brought back for like hundreds of years. And if they don't have these like masks on or like shields on, and if you see their like true skin, they change into something that I'm forgetting the name of. But oh, the shield? No, I forget what it's called. They turn into something evil, I guess. They kind of forget who they are and they just go on killing sprees. So these necromancers not only have to like bring back people, but are also defending civilization from these people who have come back and have lost their shield or whatever and are on killing sprees. But yeah, I thought this was a super interesting fantasy. I hadn't read a necromancy story before, or maybe like one, so like we're new to this field. So I thought it was super interesting, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really wanted to move on to Song of the Dead, which is a sequel, right away, but my library only has the first book for some reason, so I have to check that out at some point. Like, but then I'd have to like buy it, and who knows when that's gonna happen. But I really enjoyed the first one, and I definitely want to get to the second one eventually. So next, I'm going to talk about these together, but I have Heartstopper Volume 1 and Volume 2. I read these through the Tapas website, which is where you can read them for free, or you can read them also for free on Alice Oseman's Tumblr. So I just read the sections that someone had said were, you know, Volume 1, Volume 2. I was so happy that I loved these books. I had a hard time getting into reading manga, so I didn't know if I was going to be able to read graphic novels or like enjoy graphic novels, but I'm so happy that I loved this. I definitely want physical copies. I put them on my Christmas wish list, but yeah, I loved these. And it was so interesting to see one of our main characters, Charlie, going through self-identification and trying to figure out what his sexuality is. I thought that was really sweet and really well done. Like, it was done in a really authentic way, in my opinion. I thought the relationship was just really sweet, and it's very slow burn. Like, it's, you know, boy meets boy is on the title. It's right there. Boy meets boy. That's sort of the first one. Like, they don't, that's just the first one, sort of, you know, the relationship blooms. So I'm so excited to get to Volume 3. It is like she's publishing it right now on the website, but it's not going to be in the final bind up until later this year, I believe, or early next year. So I'm going to try to wait for that, but I definitely am going to come back to these characters because I love them so much. Oh, and I gave these both 5 stars. I feel like that's obvious. Sorry. So the next book I'm not really going to talk about because I made a whole reading vlog / rant review for Vampire Academy by Rochelle Mead, so I will link that above. But basically, this is an early 2000s trashy paranormal romance. Yeah, I had never read it before, so this was my first experience. I mentioned it all above, but basically I gave it 1 star. But there's slut shaming, there was girl on girl hate, there was just all sorts of manipulation and bad and things that I don't think are good things for young adults to be reading. I think not that if you read girl on girl hate you're gonna go do it, but I just think that there's nothing to like gain from it. It wasn't challenged. Like, there was no one like standing up for the other person. It was all very malicious and stuff. So if there's gonna be girl on girl hate, I want it to be challenged, and I want the people to recognize what the problem is and what they're doing, but that was never done, and I just do not like this book. So yeah, sorry. Okay, so the next book that I read was my Cassandra Clare book of the month, and that was City of Lost Souls by Cassandra Clare. Duh. And this is book 5 in the Immortal Instruments. And I enjoyed this a lot more than book 4. I think that book 4 was relying a lot on the nostalgia people had for the first trilogy. So it leaned heavily into showing our characters again, showing their relationships again, and the plot really didn't come in until the end of the book. Whereas here, you know, the plot's actually happening. So I did appreciate that. It's still not my favorite plot, but I'm interested to see where it continues. So I will be reading City of Heavenly Fire in October, hopefully, and I hope that this series comes to a close in a very satisfying and good way. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It might be more of a 3.5, but I think I am also falling into the nostalgia of seeing our characters again. So I just counted it as a 4-star for now. Okay, so the next book that I read is The Wildfire Ranger by Tessa Dare. This is book 3 in the Girl Meets Duke series, and this is a series that I started reading a few months ago for the Smut-a-thon. I ended up reading the first 2 books then, and I loved them. It was my first dip into a historical romance and sort of romance at all, and I just fell in love with Tessa Dare's writing, and I've been meaning to read more. But yes, so the Wildfire Ranger follows one of the characters that we met in the previous 2 books, and her name is Penny, and she is just a very caring person, and she adopts all of these animals that no one else will take in. She has, you know, a puppy with 2 broken legs, so he just has like a wheel, like wheels, like a little carriage behind him. She has goats, she has a cow or a bull or something, I don't remember. She has cats, like kittens. She has a bunch of things, and this is her romance, and it's amazing. It's also been described as a Hufflepuff Slytherin romance, which was also really great because your girl's a Hufflepuff. We love some Hufflepuff love, and I definitely relate to Penny in a lot of ways. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about this, but I just really loved it, and I cannot wait to reread these books because it's gonna have to happen. I'm going to have to buy these because I've read them all through my library, either physically or on this one on ebook, and they're just so good. So yeah, I ended up giving this a 4.5 star. Yeah, I can't really go into why it's a 4.5 because it's a spoiler, but basically something happened and I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate how it was handled. Yeah, so it was a 4.5 for me. It's not even on the screen anymore, but that's okay. Alright, so the rest of the books I do have physically, which is always a plus. But the next book is Gemina by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. This is book 2 in the Illuminate Files. So yeah, I've just been loving this series. But this one did take me like maybe half the book to really care about these characters, and there's also a new, like something new is introduced to the story with, it's sort of like it's basically like these human eating parasite things. Fun, but I hated it. It made me extremely squirrely. I don't like it. I just felt like there was like creepy crawlies everywhere and I hated it. It's very appropriate for October though, so there you go. But yeah, I just feel like that addition was sort of not unnecessary, but I didn't appreciate it because I didn't like it. And the plot of this one just wasn't as connected to me as the first book, but the ending of this was insane, and I literally was like standing at my door waiting for my dad to pick me up, and I was like, I'm dying. Like, I was like talking to myself. I was like, this can't be happening. So I ended up giving it a 4.5. I would have just given it like a 4, but the ending really pushed it up there. So yeah, I really am enjoying this series, and I am so excited to get to Obsidio in the next 2 weeks. Next, I picked up Girls on the Verge by Sharon Biggs Waller. I read this sort of as an homage to Contemporary-a-thon because I didn't participate, though I wanted to, but I felt like I was getting burnt out on Contemporary. Not that I read a lot of Contemporary or really any in this month, but I just wasn't feeling like Contemporary. But I really wanted something that was sort of topical and hard-hitting, so I picked Girls on the Verge. This has also been well loved by Chelsea from Chelsea Doll and Reads, and has just been given glowing reviews, so I really wanted to read it. And in this book, we're following Camille, who is a 17-year-old girl who is pregnant, and she knows that she wants to have an abortion, but she lives in Texas where the abortion laws are horrible. And so she ends up going on this road trip with her friends Annabelle and Bee to get an abortion. So I thought that this book was so well done. So from the beginning, we're given like these things, which are each like different laws as different points of time regarding abortions, and we see the ways that Camille is trying to get her abortion, and all of the things that are coming in the way, all the people who are trying to stop her from having this abortion, and the people who think that they can have a say over what she does with her body and stuff. It was really amazing, and I think it is such a great conversation starter. I'm so happy this is in the YA section, so young adults can read this, teenagers can read this. I just think it was amazing. I think also the use of her two best friends, and the way it's done is where one is very left-wing and one is very right and like religious, and I thought that way of, in that dichotomy of seeing that, of seeing the different opinions of either side was really cool. And overall, I just love this book. I think the structure of it was very well done. There were a few moments that were a little, I don't even know if I'd say cheesy, but there were some things that just didn't connect to me, and maybe that's just because I'm 22 years old. I don't know. But overall, I really enjoyed this. I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I think it is such an important book, and I definitely am so happy that my library has it. And lastly, what took us up until the last few hours of the month is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I was kind of nervous to pick up this book because of the very polarizing reviews, but I sort of, in the few days before this, I stopped listening to anything. I just would skip forward in my videos if anyone was talking about this. I didn't want anyone else's opinions in my head when I opened this book. I wanted it to be an open mind, just reading it, and I really enjoyed it. So this story follows our main character, Elizabeth, who has grown up in one of these great libraries where they house grimoires, which are, you know, these books that have like souls and information to tell us. And she has grown up hating sorcerers, thinks they are the bane of all evil. But then one day she meets Nathaniel, and they have a little of a weird interaction, but when something happens and Nathaniel has to come and take her to do something, I don't know how to vaguely put this, when she starts hanging out with him, she realizes she might not know as much as she thinks she knows. And this book was so good. I loved the world building and the use of sorcery and how sorcery is explained in this book. I also really loved seeing inside the libraries and the descriptions of the inside of the library. Margaret Rogerson has very descriptive and beautiful writing without being too overly flowery or overly flowery and descriptive where it gets in the way of the story. I thought that the descriptions and the writing was all just beautiful, and it really felt like it was a part of the story, you know? So there is also some representation in this for LGBTQA+, IA+, sorry. So Nathaniel explicitly tells Elizabeth that he likes girls and boys. We love that. And then there's also, Elizabeth suggests that her friend Catrian is asexual. Catrian doesn't say anything along this, but it is suggested by Elizabeth. So, just gonna say that. But yes, like I said, really enjoyed this. I'm asking for a copy for Christmas, and I'm super excited to read Enchantment of Ravens now. But yeah, this was a 4-star for me. Maybe more of a 4.5, but I'm gonna keep it as a 4. Okay, so those were the 12 books that I read in September, a few of which I have with me. Oh man, they flew. And I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have read any of these books, please talk to me about them down below. I would love to hear your opinions, especially with Sorcery of Thorns. Did you like it? I know there's conflicting opinions about it, so yeah. Okay, I'll see you guys in another video soon. Bye!